So some of you may have seen my recent video series on the top 30 heavyweights as of January 2016. Well, I got a few requests off the back of that to do some ranking videos for other divisions. Of those, welterweight was the most popular. I'm considering whether to do a middleweight version next, but I've decided to crack on and do a welterweight version of these rankings. But I'm going to stick with the top 10 only this time. And the reason for that is the top 30 heavyweight series possibly went on a bit too long, possibly took up too much time for me to film and probably too much time for you to watch. So we're going to stick with a top 10 for the welterweight division. Now, the welterweight division I've found particularly difficult to assess and to rank. I've had to really redo my rankings 3 or 4 times before making this video. It's taken me a lot longer to do this than I expected, but I wanted to put down rankings that I really believed in and could defend. So before I go into it, I want to talk about a number of fighters who aren't on the top 10 list. And the reason I'm going to go through this is because otherwise I'll get comments, why is this person not on it? Why is that person not on it? So let's start with the proverbial elephant in the room. Floyd Mayweather. Clearly Floyd Mayweather is the best 147-pound fighter if he's active. Now, I know there's a lot of people speculating he isn't retired, but he's announced his retirement. He's said that he's no longer fighting, so as a result I'm not going to rank him in the top 10. Clearly that changes if he returns to the ring, and subject to him winning, which he always does, I would imagine he would go straight back up to the top of the list. But for the purposes of this list, as of January 2016, we're not including Floyd Mayweather. Similarly, Juan Manuel Marquez, no place for him on the list either. He's been inactive, he's obviously in his mid-40s. I know there's talk about him wanting to fight again and wanting to come back, but we're not seeing it as of yet. And for the purposes of this, I'm not going to include him because I don't think he should still be classed as an active fighter. Marcus Maidana, another guy who certainly should be involved in the conversation for top 10, but due to his inactivity, his recent weight gain, I'm thinking he's probably stepping away from the sport, so I haven't included him. Then a few names who are there or thereabouts, but I haven't included for other reasons. Lamont Peterson. I know he may be moving up to campaign at £147, but he hasn't had the fights there yet. I think he had one fight at 144, 145, something like that. We need to see him fight at full welterweight before I include him. Chris Algieri, a very, very good fighter. Good win over Ruslan Provodnikov, but that was at 140. Who's he actually beaten at 147? The win over Eric Benet, for me, not enough to include him. Diego Chavez, a likeable fighter, there or thereabouts, but again, isn't he best known for the draws and the losses as opposed to actual wins on his record as a result of excluding him? Andre Berto, I know he's obviously big profile following on from the Floyd Mayweather matchup. I just don't feel Berto's actually beaten the names to merit inclusion in the top 10. Errol Spence, someone who narrowly missed out. Clearly he's a prospect moving very much in the right direction. The form just isn't in the book at this stage. Lastly, Devon Alexander. Devon's been a mainstay of the welterweight top 10 for the last couple of years, but recent losses, I think he got outpointed by Aaron Martinez, as well as the loss to Amir Khan. He seems to be on the slide, and as a result, he's just missed out on the top 10. So, having talked, for a few minutes there about who isn't in the top 10, let's crack on to my actual rankings, and we're going to start at number 10, work our way up to number 1. Number 10 is a new entry to the list, Sammy Vasquez. He's not someone that I've seen an awful lot of. I know he's a very hot prospect in the States. Sammy Vasquez took care of Aaron Martinez in real convincing fashion. Convincing fashion. For me, the win over Aaron Martinez is enough to put him into the top 10, especially the manner which he won. I think if you compare the way he took care of business compared to how Robert Guerrero or Devon Alexander did against Martinez, it really shows that this guy deserves to be in the conversation. And I've got him at number 10. He can certainly go higher than that, just needs to take the bigger fights. At number 9, Brandon Rios. You know, I understand that Brandon Rios has reneged on his decision to retire and is looking to make a comeback to the sport. I know he had that bad loss to Tim Bradley recently, and it was a bad loss, but Tim Bradley is a grade A fighter, and Brandon Rios tends to lose to the elite, you know, Pacquiaos and Bradleys of the sport. Having said that, his recent win over Diego Chavez, albeit in a close fight, as well as the convincing win over Mike Alvarado, you know, were, to be honest, near career best performances from Brandon Rios. And I still think he's a tough fight. I still think he's good enough to be classed in the top 10, given the strength of that recent form. Number 8, I've got Robert Guerrero. You know, Guerrero is being seen more as an opponent these days. He's probably brought in as an opponent to fight Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman, but he only loses at the very, very top level, and he still takes care, albeit in tighter than expected fights against Aaron Martinez, Kamagai, those sort of levels. If you look back on his resume, also got wins over Andre Berto, when Berto was, you know, supposed to be the next big thing. Selçuk Aydin. You know, Robert Guerrero, for me, number 8 is a good ranking for him. You know, that's where he's at these days, and I think he still deserves to be in that conversation, evidenced by the fact he still gives the top guys some really, really big fights. Now, this is where my rankings I started to struggle. I didn't find it too hard to rank 1 and 2, which we'll get to later on in the video. I didn't find it too hard to come to a decision on who to exclude and who to include as 8, 9, 10. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 I found very difficult, and I changed my mind numerous occasions on which order to rank these guys in. So I'm going to start with my number 7 ranking, and this will upset a few people, but my number 7th rank welterweight is Amir Khan. You know, Amir Khan's got a great resume. He's fought some real big names, but not at 147 pounds. And this isn't a pound for pound ranking, this is a 147 pound ranking. Who's he beaten? Devin Alexander, Luis Collazo, Chris Algieri. None of those guys made my top 10. Yeah, Amir Khan beat those guys well. He did a good job against them. Those guys are a good level of opposition, top 20 level opponents. He deserves to be in the conversation. But has he beaten a top 10 welterweight? Has he beaten a top 5 welterweight? For me, not at this stage. You know, I did a video the other week saying Amir Khan needs to really take his boxing career more seriously and position himself for a big fight, whoever that's against, you know. And I genuinely believe if he does that, he can move up the rankings. Very talented fighter. But based on proven form at 147 pounds, hard to rank him higher than number 7. At number 6, Sean Porter. Obviously, Sean Porter's got a very big fight coming up against Keith Thurman. The winner of that will move up the rankings substantially. These are the kind of fights we need to see in the welterweight division. Sean Porter, he obviously got a loss to Cal Brook, so I couldn't rank him higher than Cal Brook, but I thought his form was marginally stronger than Amir Khan's, and it was tight, you know, very tight. I really changed my mind in which order to rank these guys. Obviously, they both have a win over Devin Alexander in hand. Sean Porter's other best wins, Paulie Malignaggi, Adrian Broner, I thought was slightly better than Amir Khan's wins over Collazo and Algieri. You know, I know Malignaggi and Broner, again, fighters that people criticise, but for me, those guys are slightly higher class than Collazo and Algieri. A lot of people were picking Broner to beat Porter, you know, so, yeah. I just edged Sean Porter over Amir Khan, and I've got Porter at number 6. At number 5, Keith Thurman. Again, very tight how to rank Keith Thurman. You know, he's not a completely dissimilar level of fighter to Amir Khan and Porter. But the reason I sided with him was the Robert Guerrero win. You know, names like Collazo, who Khan obviously fought, Bundu, they're all similar sort of level operators. They really are. But Keith Thurman, I slightly edged just because of the win over Robert Guerrero. You know, Robert Guerrero is someone who did make my top 10 list at number 8, and I thought that was slightly stronger form than what we've seen from Porter and Khan. Number 4, you might be able to guess based on my reasoning for Robert Guerrero. 4, I've gone for Danny Garcia. And the reason I've gone for Danny Garcia is, again, the win over Robert Guerrero. I know Garcia's been at welterweight for a much shorter period of time than someone like Keith Thurman, but I like Paulie Malignaggi as a fighter. I think Paulie Malignaggi's still got a lot to offer. And the way Garcia was able to dominate him and stop him made me rank him slightly above Keith Thurman, slightly above him. You know, both of their best wins is Robert Guerrero. For me, the Paulie Malignaggi win for Garcia slightly edges him ahead. It's a similar reason to why I slightly edge Sean Porter to Amir Khan, actually, because they both best win is probably Devon Alexander, but for me, Porter's win over Malignaggi was better than Khan's other form. So, yeah, for the context of the welterweight division, I've gone Garcia number 4. Number 3, I've gone Kell Brook. Now, Kell Brook is someone who, on the whole, doesn't have a strong resume, but he has got one good piece of form, and it's an extremely good piece of form, which was his win over Sean Porter, my number 6 ranked fighter. So that's why I've included him so high up the list. You know, he's the only one of these fighters in this bracket, 3 to 7, who's gone out and beaten one of the other fighters in the bracket. Obviously, the Porter-Thurman winner will move up to that level as well. But for me, Kell Brook going out and beating Sean Porter merits him his place at number 3 on the list. It puts him aside from all the other fighters in what's very, very close. You know, his other wins, Frankie Gavin, Senchenko, they're probably not as strong as the other guys. You know, I'm basing Kell Brook's ranking here on the one big win of his career, but I thought that was just enough to edge him up. But as I say, that group of fighters, Brook, Khan, Porter, Garcia, Thurman, found them really hard and changed my mind numerous times. 1 and 2, again, bit of a coin flip as to which way to go. Very similar rant. Bradley and Pacquiao. I've gone Bradley 1, Pacquiao 2. Clearly, assuming Floyd Mayweather retires, the number 1 is going to be the guy who beats the other one when these two match up. And with Floyd Mayweather out of the scene, this fight is very much to decide the number 1 welterweight for me. The reason I've gone for Bradley over Pacquiao, I thought Bradley put in a great performance last time out, a career best, whereas I thought Pacquiao put in a career worst last time out. And I'm not sure what Pacquiao's got left. You know, he was poor, in my opinion, against Floyd Mayweather. Looked out of ideas. It wasn't too long before that he'd been heavily knocked out by Juan Manuel Marquez. You know, that's why I've edged to Bradley over Pacquiao. The recent form, also I thought Bradley's win over Marquez was much more dominant than any of Pacquiao's fights against Marquez. I thought Bradley looked like a class above when he fought Marquez in what was probably the peak of Bradley's career. Obviously, they fought twice. Bradley won once. A lot of people thought Pacquiao won that. Pacquiao won the second time, but a lot of people give Bradley a pass because he was badly injured. It's very tight. I've leant towards Tim Bradley. You know, the wins over Marquez, the win over Pacquiao, the win over Brandon Rios, etc. for me was enough to rank him number 1. Pacquiao, obviously his resume is superb, but at a lot of different weight classes, and the recent loss to Floyd Mayweather just made me question whether he was coming to the end of his career. Just to reiterate, Vasquez 10, Rios 9, Guerrero 8, Khan 7, Porter 6, Thurman 5, Garcia 4, Brook 3, Pacquiao 2, Bradley 1. All changes if Floyd re-enters the game. Guys like Marquez, Maidana, they can come back in if they show activity. Guys like Lamont, Peterson, Algieri, Errol Spence, they're one big fight away from entering the mix. But that's what I've gone with so far. Let me know your top 10. I'm interested to hear your top 10 based on form at 147. I'm not interested in hearing this guy should be number 1 because he's beaten someone up at 140 or 154. This is my welterweight rankings only. Let me know your thoughts. If you've enjoyed this, please give me the thumbs up. I'd appreciate it. If you'd like to see the middleweight rankings that I'm intending to do subscribe to the channel. Wouldn't want you to miss out. Many thanks for watching.